me ready now. A time to share, a time to care, a time to happy. But the whole year just went and you forgot it. Too much disguising on your love. I know I come tell the eye about Merry Christmas. Lord, you need to give a little. You get your rhythm. You need to show the people something more. Don't make the heart shiver when fear is driven and end up losing it. But I'ma make it. Youth's born for greatness. For you see I and I own cheddar with one amount of labor. You know see I and I own cheddar with one amount of labor. So tell Santa him can stop it or you from oh, you are big dreams that we are. Oh.
473 from Confero. And this is another of our program. In fact, it's the first program after Hurricane Beryl, which has been most destructive to the farmers' land in Grenada and Carriacou. And this morning, as usual, we have with us Joshua on the agriculture program. Joshua Luis, but I just prefer to say Joshua. When I say Joshua, I feel biblical, and Joshua was a significant figure in the Bible. And this Joshua is also extremely concerned about agriculture. So this morning, the topic is agriculture. And we say agriculture with a question mark. We don't know what is going on. We're not hearing from people we're supposed to hear from. And the other part is agriculture and the way forward. We are not waiting. We are taking the initiative. We have had some discussion with farmers, and you're going to hear us making suggestions about. So today, my brother, as I must encourage you to give us a call on 410-3030. We beg you to share our program, subscribe to Studio Galaxy. And the people in the diaspora, we are the new kids on the block. So we want to encourage you to share our program and like us. My brother Joshua, agriculture and the way forward. And Beryl have had the farmers quaking.
Well, good morning, Mr. Pierre. Good morning, everyone in the studio, everyone in Grenada, diaspora, and the world. Welcome to what is a kind of bittersweet show for us, because we come into you after the horrible, terrible Beryl. What do we do in terms of the national disaster that we've had? Well, quite often the experts say the first thing that has to happen after a major national disaster is respond. So we have to respond to saving life and limbs and whatever buildings, essential things that we can save. So the first stage is the response. It's not about strategic plans, long-term, short-term. It's about response. How do you immediately save people? How do you cater for their needs? How do you shelter them? And from what I've been hearing, I'm not one to listen to TV, but I do have my phone and I do kind of get the occasional bits from the YouTube. It seems to me the preparedness for Beryl was pretty good. There were several kind of programs warning people what to do, giving up-to-date information. So NADMA and the government needs to be commended, as well as all the volunteers who probably by their actions have saved lives. So I thank you, as a citizens for the good work that you've done. But I think the problem that often happens is that when we have this situation, rather than responding to the needs of the people, be it psychological, be it practical, like housing, etc., what we tend to do, we tend to want to go and get data. We want to collect data and see what we have and this and that. And sometimes it all gets a little bit too messy. I know in terms of responding to a national disaster, there has to be a degree of interconnectiveness. So somebody has to be working on the immediate response to save life and limbs, but also somebody in the back room, and I hope the minister is the one who's heading that. They have to be looking at how do we respond? What is the response that we need to do? Now, in agriculture, my thoughts, and I'm no expert in agriculture, my thoughts is that first of all, we need to make sure all the propagation, plants are up and working. We need to fully staff them, temporary staff, full-time staff. We need to kind of be growing and preparing for the rebuild of those things. We need to be contacting the international agencies and let them know the kind of level of support we'll need, whether it's 10 million, 100 billion, etc. But we must have tentative number in terms of the response. So what a lot of governments do is, and I suspect there's some of that going along in terms of Grenada, is that you send out all the extension officers to gather data in terms of what damage has been done and all the rest of it. And the truth is, if you want quick data, you should have had a list of all your farmers and you just call them and ask them what they have. Also, we do a national census every 10 years. So we should know that we have 20 cattle, and we should be able to know who these people are that have the 20 cattle and what they are. So we should be able to have like a war room, agriculture war room, that we could get all the information immediately. We shouldn't have to send a group of 100 extension officers out from farm to farm and doing that. That could come, but a little ways down the road. What we need now is, what is the short-term plan to respond in terms of what has happened to agriculture? And obviously, we're always pretty good at the physical kind of stuff. How many trees has gone down? How many kind of fruit trees? How many soursop? How many planting banana, golden apple? All those things. We're pretty good at that. What we're not so good at, and what I want to highlight, is the psychological and financial damage that Beryl has done to farmers. Because I've already had a report that one farmer that I know passed away. I think people don't really understand the human needs that we have, because as a colony, our people are treated as though they're a piece of wood. They don't have feelings. They don't have any kind of sadness, any shock. I think we need to do more holistic assessment of our people. And I think from what I've seen, I've been working with 4 farmers recently, because they're in despair. They really don't know what to do. They're losing hope. One of them said to me, "Josh, if you wasn't with me, I would have give up," because the psychological impact and the financial impact on these people means that they don't have the resources, to pay the Grenada bill, pay the water bill coming up. Food is a challenge. When they've been wiped out like that, they need some sort of counseling, some sort of support, practical support. They need a bit of hand-holding to take them through. They need a bit of hand-holding in terms of financially. How do they recover? What is the plan? How is it going to be more resilient than before? And I think, to be fair to everybody, we can't expect everybody to have the full range of skills that needed to respond to a national disaster. But there should be, leaders who are in place who can, guide in terms of what's happening on the ground and how to respond. So I think that's important. I think it's also important that we have a long-term plan for the recovery in terms of Ivan. Not Ivan, Beryl. Ivan was so terrible, it's still in my mind. So I think that's the kind of approach that's needed in terms of agriculture. Needless to say, I don't want to belittle for 1 minute what's going on in Carriacou, what's happened in St. Andrew, St. Patrick, St. Mark, St. John, etc. Everybody have their unique particular needs. And I'm truly hoping that I'd be able to go over to Carriacou and lend a hand in terms of the cleanup as we go forward. My heart goes out to them, because the basic in life is food, shelter, and clothing. And when you see people without shelter and you watch what has happened, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But equally, the same damage has been done to parts of Grenada. And we need to make sure that everybody's service, and we need to make sure that the vulnerable elderly farmers, are supported, because they are feeling extremely fragile at the moment. So that's my take in terms of my immediate thoughts in terms of what's going on. I want to introduce some financial support for the farmers, which is often not on the table, and some psychological support for them.
Well, let's deal with the psychological.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because as you see in our experience with Ivan in the past,
Mm-hmm.
the concentration after the immediate response,
Mm-hmm.
the concentration seems always stays. Somebody stays with the people who are the houses and etc. And the farmer get left.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we had reports of a number of farmers dying. They couldn't make it. And even now, when you speak to some farmers, you look as if they go dead.
Yeah, and that's been at the forefront of my mind recently, because the farmers that I've been talking with, they tended to be mature farmers. And, I could see on their face the sadness, the loss, the shock that they're going through. And, some of the extension officers have already been to their farm, so all kudos to them. But I do wonder if those extension farmers are in a position to do a full assessment in terms of how do we move forward. I know they're in a position to do an assessment in terms of the crops, etc., what's needed and how we go forward. But when you look at the person in front of you, looking so frail they could hardly walk, or they're walking as though the wind could blow them down, that should trigger in your head something's wrong, something is not right here, And unfortunately, I feel the strain and the stress and the psychological pressure and the financial pressure would throw a few of them down. And it saddens my heart to have to say that. But I know one has gone down that I know already. But, I think unless we have a holistic approach and we start treating each other as human beings, especially farmers, and not just as, plants and building, I think we're going to miss the boat. This is an opportunity for us to be kinder, gentler to each other, to see each other as humans, not just as a person who needs some plans to rebuild. And I think because of our history, that sometimes is missing from us. We seem to see each other as either kind of thieves or kind of want something for nothing. And the humanity is often missing there. Oh, I'll give him 10 plants and he's telling me he lost 100. That's all I have to give him. So let's kind of make sure we treat each other in a kinder, gentler way. And if we don't have the information that the farmers need, let's refer him to somebody who has the information. But let's not work in a way like a box. We work in a box. In order for us to come out of this, we have to have connectivity with everything that we need to survive. Where we get in food, where we get in loans, where we get in plants, how do we maintain our nutrition, where can we get a loan. So everything is connected. And my fear is that people often see the need for housing, and they don't often, in my view, this is only my view, they don't often see the needs of the farmer as just as great as housing, or even greater at times. Because how do we survive this scenario? Because if a man loses planting plots, and one of the farmers that I'm trying to assist, he gave me a list of, he has 4 plots. He gave me a list of one of his plots and what he's missing. And he has lost 40 nutmeg tree in one plot. The next one, he has lost another 500 nutmeg tree, 200 plantain plant, 40 fig plant, 200 tanya, 2 coconut trees, 2 peach tree, and that's just in one plot. In another plot, he's lost 75 nutmeg tree, 30 plantain, 30 fig, 150 tanya, 400 peas, and the list goes on. This is just to illustrate and give you an example, of what the loss is. The man was saying to me, Josh, it's taken me 30 years. All my severance, I'm a poor man, went into buying this land, went into farming for myself. He worked at Belmont Estate, and he left and he took everything they gave him and he bought land. And he works every day. He lives with his sister. Other children live on the plot, grandchildren. It's a buzzing little place when you go there, and he was just down, not knowing what to do. And I said, okay, well, let's reach out and let's ask Extension what they could do. Let's ask GDB what they could do. Let's see how we respond to that. Because sometimes in a natural disaster, it gives you an opportunity to plan and do things better moving forward. But if you can't finance that gap between the time you plant the planting and the time it bears, you might as well say goodbye, because you're going to be bankrupt. If you can't buy food, if you can't buy fertilizers, if you can't pay workers, if you can't give yourself a little something, we're basically setting people up to die. So I hope and I pray. The reason why I haven't seen the Minister for Agriculture make any announcement is because he's been a proper leader, and behind the scene, he's developing a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term strategy. How we're going to get out of this terrible disaster, how we're going to save lives, and how we're going to build back better and stronger, because that's what we have to do. We can't sit back and say, oh God, dead, this one killed me. We have to find the strength and the courage, wherever we find it, to fight back, because you have to remember, we're a special people. We have suffered, endured, and come through slavery. There's nothing worse. They say slavery was the worst kind of crime committed against humanity. And we are the descendants of the slaves. So our genes are resilient and it's strong, So don't let the setback kind of knock us down. We have to do what the Japanese say. If you fall down 10 times, get up 11 times. So this is the daunting task ahead of us for farmers. And at this point in time, it also says to me, where is our, National Association for Farmers to be in there representing us? Because if you're not at the table, you're not getting anything. if you're not there advocating for yourself and advocating for your fellow farmers, it's whatever they hand out to you, whatever they give you, and quite often that will not be adequate. Mr. Pierre, what we need is to build these farms better. We have to have crops on the ground, crops over the ground. We have to think about irrigation, how we do it. We have to think about shade houses. We have to think about moving from talking about linking agriculture to tourism and actually do it. You cannot link agriculture to tourism. And one of the hotels asked me, what is it that I can help with for the farmers? I said, the farmers, as a response, will need comfort. They'll probably need blankets, food, and those kinds of things for the children. But if you genuinely want to help farmers, give them a contract. Because if they have a contract, and they know that they have to wait 9 months before they produce their first planting for you, at least they know they have something to hold on to look forward to. And even if they don't make it, because some of them are very elderly, their children will benefit from it. Now, this whole psychology of aid and helping, it's needed. God knows it's needed in Grenada at this point in time. But what we need is trading relationship, solid trading relationship that makes sense to the hotels, that makes sense to the farmers. We don't want charity, although I say that with a pinch of salt, because at the moment, there are people who need charity. But going forward, what we want is healthy trading relationship where we have our dignity and we can move forward as a people and show that our resilience has benefited ourselves and we can trade. That is what we need in terms of moving forward.
You made a point that jolted me a bit. The farmer has become the new poo on the block.
Mm-hmm.
And it has serious psychological impact, because even the example of the farmer you give there would be a relatively comfortable farmer.
Yes.
Based upon what he has in his land.
Yes.
And he's able to accommodate family members on his plot.
Yeah.
What
he has about 4 sets of family living in his compound.
We're going to call that family pig. So the farmer is in a better position, and his relatives, he gives them spots and they build a house.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them live on his land too.
Yeah, yeah.
And he don't bother because of his family.
Yes.
And in the eyes of other people, this farmer might be seen as a petty bourgeois in the rural communities.
Yeah.
They say he have.
Yeah.
He greedy.
Oh, God.
You don't help him. This sort of language will be used to describe the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
So when things is sharing, even though food stuff come, that farmer would not be working there for food.
Mm-hmm.
You'll feel so ashamed. And if he dare goes in the crowd for food, he'll be reprimanded.
Yeah. I think you're right, Mr. Pierre, in terms of that. We have to change that.
So this farmer will be seriously reprimanded by locals.
Yes.
Even those who loot his land now, who goes and the fig that fall where they know he can't sell it, they take it.
Mm-hmm.
So the community also use his land as a source of food.
Yes.
And that farmer don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
And his income is cut out.
Cut overnight.
Completely.
Cut.
If that farmer would have been, based upon what he lost there, that farmer could have been pulling in $1,000 a week.
Yeah, or more. Because I buy 200 pounds of plantain from him every week. I buy that. I buy, he has pineapples. I buy 2 crates of pineapple. So myself alone, every week I purchase close to 1,000 from him.
So he would be pulling that in after he pays workers, etc.
Yeah.
And he could live a relatively comfortable and respectable life.
Yeah.
That is gone.
Yeah.
This farmer don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
And he would be a farmer over 50 years.
Yes.
Definitely.
Very much over 50.
By now, other family members recognize that this farmer is on the run.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them might be trying to get jobs and move out,
Mm-hmm.
and that farmer will be left.
Mm-hmm.
The psychological and the mental impact
Yeah.
on that farmer.
Yeah. And that's what I say. That support is needed every week. That farmer needs counseling. He needs maybe not the formal, fraudulent kind of counseling, but he needs somebody who boosts him every week until his fuel come back to keep going. Because what I suspect will happen is that they're going to just use brute strength to try and get the farm going again. And it's going to be a very lonely time. And maybe somewhere along the line, something may happen to him. I pray to God nothing happens to him. But that's the bit we miss. That farmer needs somebody who's trained to kind of talk with him for an hour once a week, to keep him going, to make sure he's okay, to acknowledge that he's
That is extremely ambitious. And
but
maybe
it's needed. It's needed.
highly improbable.
It's,
And knowing the ministry,
mhm,
the Nutmeg Board, the Cocoa Association, is almost highly impractical.
yeah.
So perhaps if they could come up with information sheet,
Mhm.
radio programs,
Yes. Yes.
encouraging the extension officers, arming the extension officers,
Yeah. Or skilling the
with some practical advice,
Yes. Yes.
that might suffice.
Yeah, that sounds good, Mr. Pierre. That might be something that we put in terms of our national disaster planning going forward. And in the meantime, we try and see what we can do with the suggestions that you made in order to alleviate what is a very difficult situation in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique at the moment. But we need to highlight that people need psychological human support. They need words of encouragement. They don't need to be put down at the moment. They don't need to be told, well, why you didn't do that? Why you didn't get the water tank? Why that's not needed at the moment. As we rebuild, we could have that conversation.
Joshua, you said you did not hear from the minister, and I like the way you put it. He must be planning to come up with a program. What's about the Cocoa Association and Nutmeg Association? That's two big, powerful institutions that have the personnel,
Yes.
qualification, they have the infrastructure in terms of computers and
Yes.
what's about them? I've not heard anything from them.
I've not heard anything from them, and that's why you often say we don't have all the answers here, but collectively we have all the answers. So the cocoa and nutmeg never even came to my mind. So thank goodness you mentioned them. Two minds is better than just one. Where are they? They really can be doing something to support their members because they are big. And I know at times they don't always have resources, but they have staffing that can make a difference, can do something. And I think as we look towards recovery and mitigation, I think we should be hearing a lot more from them, moving forward. I really do. And maybe this is the time where we prioritize as part of the recovery secondary processing of cocoa and nutmeg, because we talk it but we don't do it. So maybe this is the time as we rebuild somewhere down the road, we do that. The other thing as
Joshua,
well,
just before you go, perhaps if there is a level, we agree that the farmer is traumatized
yes,
and a level of paralysis,
yes,
indecisiveness.
yes,
We might well have to assume that the Cocoa Association and Nutmeg Association is also paralyzed, traumatized, and a level of indecisiveness.
yeah, but
Perhaps they could turn to ICA for advice and carry.
Yeah, well, Econ Cardi will be good, but this is the time where leaders come out. If you have people leading these organizations, they need to show their face and come out now. They need to have a plan. They have executive boards, they have management staff. Come on, it doesn't take long to put a plan together and roll it out. Yes, you're going to make mistakes because sometimes in life you just have to make decisions and you're not going to get all of them right. But you have to kind of, do something because we tend to kind of be too academically kind of inclined. We tend to be like data driven all the time. But in times of a national crisis, a disaster, it's not so much about data, although that's important. It's how we respond, the immediate response to life and how limbs being lost and practical things being lost. We have to respond to this. Give people water, give people food, blankets, etc., etc. Save what we can save. And then we go into the next phase. How do we respond?
Joshua, you think we could beg the journalists in Grenada to please go and interview one of the members of the Nutmeg Board or the Cocoa Board? Perhaps a journalist could help us.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
They wouldn't listen. They wouldn't, communicate with us. But maybe a journalist, a Linda Strick or the other sisters, could go to one of the board and ask them, let the farmers know you're alive, you're well, you're thinking about them, you're trying to. You must have some hope.
Yeah. You must have some. But what I would like to see, and this is not for the farmers, this is for our political leaders. I would like them to say, in order for agriculture to recover, our estimates show that they need 50 million in the short run and another 25 million in the medium term. I'd like to hear the figures, what we need to recover. I'd like to hear Carriacou needs like 250 million. That's our first estimate of what they need. We have a contingency of 25% besides the ton. But we must be able as leaders and professionals to kind of use our judgment to come up with numbers, because the international agencies cannot work with, oh, we need help. What damn help you need? How much help you need? What is the figure? What you need? Tissue culture? How much? For what? Cocoa? Planting? We need to be a bit more precise. I know it's a crisis, but there are very intelligent people in terms of government who can do this if they focus on different areas. Yes, we need the plan for the response, the recovery, to mitigate and to build back better. All of that has to be done together whilst we kind of recover and see or respond to see what people need. There has to be people in the back room who are doing the plans for us so that when we come out of that stage of response to Carriacou and Grenada, we can move forward in terms of this is our short-term plan. This is our medium-term plan. This is our long-term plan. This is the costing. This is the resources that we need for the short term. This is the resources that we need for the long. There has to be somebody who's doing the clarity of thought and planning, using all the data. That's not for the person who's putting on the electricity in Carriacou, in Grenada, for them to do that. This is a separate planning team that has to be working on that for the minister,
What could we do? Because we are saying these things and we want to provoke discussion.
Yes.
And we're looking for discussion and we're making suggestions.
Yes.
But it seems as though the leadership is traumatized into some slumber.
Yeah.
And the question is, what could we do to awake them?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if one of the journalists maybe could beg them to go and have a discussion with the chairman of the board of Nutmeg, or the manager, the chairman of the board of Cocoa, to ask the minister if he is right now so deeply engrossed in the mega plan that you don't have time to even give them a shot,
Yeah, leaders have to
motivational
always make
address.
time for the people. You know, what I would like to do probably in an ideal world, I would have liked to see the two Mitchells together making a national kind of.
Well, that is even more far-fetched. If we can get one to talk, asking to, I mean, I always try to be practical. You know, there is no question that our people have the certification. We have good university graduates. I always worry that they cannot perform under pressure.
Mm.
Every time we're in a crisis, you see most of our leaders are traumatized into paralysis. Hurricane Emily passed. We were aware. We all agree that NAGMA and the government and who provide information, we all agree that they responded in terms of loss of life. But I don't think we had any loss of life apart one. To rescue, to provide food. But then there seems to be a paralysis. And particularly from the farmer's perspective.
Yes, yeah.
That even add to the level of hopelessness. Remember, the number to call is 410-3030. And we encourage you, as always, to share our program, like our program, and subscribe to Studio Galaxy. That seems to be the paralysis.
Yeah, you know, I'm worried, Mr. Pierre, that you know, what's going to happen in agriculture is that there's going to be some data collection. This man has lost 10,000, you know, plantain or coconut, and then we're going to work towards giving him back this, and that's the way we're going to move forward. I think a proper assessment has to be done, you know, of these farms to see if a hurricane hit them again, how resilient they can be with the crops that they have. I think we need to plant crops that if a hurricane hit us again, and you know, all the indication is that it will hit us again, whether in another 20 years or whether in this season again, I don't know, because I know when Ivan hit us, there was another one that hit us.
Emily
hit us soon after. You know, Emily was the one that they sent to kind of try and finish us off, but she didn't finish us off. We're still going. So what I'm saying is that if we can get together a constructive plan, 25% of our crops on the ground, another 25% maybe cash crop, another maybe 25 or 50% like the things like the breadfruit, the plantain, the banana, the tree crops, for want of a better word. So whether, you know, if we get hit again, at least the farmer has something that he might
balance.
Yeah, balance. Yeah, he has a balance that he could survive, as opposed to when it hits you, it just wipes you out. And whether we like it or not, you know, we can't go through another year without farm insurance. We cannot.
Joshua,
It's irresponsible if we do that. There has to be farmers insurance.
Joshua, just before we go to insurance, because we must talk about that. The tree crop farmers, nutmeg and cocoa, most of them would have the breadfruit and other. Perhaps no is the one that we likely to die the most because they tend to be the elder farmer. And I don't think it's difficult for nutmeg. They don't have to send anybody in the field for that. To know what is the average sale in the last 12 months. And make a decision. What percentage of the last sale in the last 12 months I will give them on a monthly basis for 3 years?
That's an excellent idea, Mr.
While I discuss with them that you must plant back nutmeg, and we're going to come with a program to assist you to plant back nutmeg for the next 5 years.
Mr. Pierre, you become a professor on me overnight, man.
You see, some or the other, some people has used language I have difficulties to understand. Because bright people use a lot of language.
Yeah.
So when we speak, a 6-year-old must understand what we say. So the Nutmeg Association don't have to, they just have to sit down in the office and ask one of the secretaries to do it. They know the farmer sell nutmeg to them. So they know if the farmer sold $1,000 nutmeg per month
Excellent.
as an average.
Excellent idea.
And they could determine what percentage we'll give him.
Yeah.
Whether it's 5%, whether it's 90%, whether it's 50%.
But Mr. Pierre, you give me hope straight away hearing that coming from your mouth.
We must,
The hair on my hand, look, they stood
the
up.
farmer go dead.
Yes.
If the farmer don't get nothing, some of them go dead.
Yes.
There's no question about that.
Yeah. In my mind, there's no question about
So
that.
if
either.
you give the farmer, you say, okay, based upon our projection for the next 3 years, we're going to give you 50% of the average sales of the nutmeg. So who didn't pick up nutmeg like me won't get nothing. Those who pick up more going to get more. We'll give you 50% on a monthly basis.
Yes.
But you must enter the program that we have to replant.
To replant.
And we're going to dictate the distance you replant, how much trees you have, and we're going to help you organize to replant. You could plant whatever crops in between. We're going to determine what height your husbandry practice. And then we're going to do that for 5 years.
Yes, yes.
Because in 5 years, you expect the farmer to have nothing.
Yeah, and I think they should have that as part of the recovery. One of the aspects in terms of the recovery that we do, because that is such a practical, beneficial, long-term, sensible idea. I can't see how that idea will not be taken up and go on board. Because if we don't take it up, it just confirms what the books are saying. Black people in the Caribbean have a lack of softness to each other.
I agree with you. We are very hard and cold to one another.
Yeah.
The crab in the barrel mentality. They defy. So now, and we cannot say we don't have money to do that.
Yes.
Because a lot of people in the world is sympathetic to Grenada. So the Nutmeg Association must able to lobby. They could sell cocoa if both of them work together as a forest crop.
Yeah.
And that's helping with the climate and all kind of thing they're talking about.
But I think Grenada has triggered its insurance policy. I think it's due for a payout of about 140 million to, I think, 150. Usually you don't get the full amount. And, I think there is the transformation fund that has funds in it. I don't know how much those funds are.
Money is not a problem. They have money.
Yeah, we have money for the initial get-go. But we'll need a lot more money, Mr. Pierre, for the long term. Because once you just protect the people, which is a job of government from this disaster, and you start the process to respond, you will find if we have, say, 300 million available, we'll need 1 billion. Because these things initially you just want to make sure no more lives are lost. But when you get to the practical and the technical and rebuilding better and more resilient, you will find that it's going to take a lot more.
Why do you think I always not to put talk about the amount of money? Because if you don't do it, the amount of money you have to spend for the social implication.
Yes.
You have to get money for violence and crime.
Yes.
You have to get money for the mental.
You have to invest in prisons.
You have to get money for the prison. You have to get money for unstableness in the country.
Yeah.
But if you bring some semblance of normalcy and hope, economic hope to the farmers,
and that's
you would not have the social implication.
Yeah. We want economic and we want strong business relationship. We don't want to drift into a period of kind of charity. Yes, we need charity now, and what it's been given to us, I don't even think it's charity. It's just basic humanity.
It's
But
thing to make our people come small as whales. You have some young people to school and they small like a whale. They hardly could go up step.
yeah,
And that is a nightmare for the hospitals. Hardly seeing trouble to work because these young people small like whale.
yeah.
They're too heavy to raise.
Yeah. And Mr. Pierre, I saw something, I think it was probably on YouTube. I was listening to Ride Along. I think there's a program called Ride Along. And they said the Caymans had offered us work, and then the next day they retracted that and said that's wrong. But Mr. Pierre, what do you think about getting labor into Grenada whilst we rebuild? Getting a lot of people have told me, Josh, why don't we get people from Haiti to come in?
I hope we do that. We might have to take that and make a topic.
No, but as part of the recovery, what do you think? Because labor is a terrible problem if people don't know in
Yeah,
agriculture.
we need Grenada. It's difficult for Grenada to develop with the population we have.
And one of
Barbados crying out, Dominica bawling. Most of the Caribbean don't have population. Their population is not sustainable. They're going to Grenada already have the most home for the age in the Caribbean.
oh Lord,
We're going to have older people.
right,
And
right,
our young people doesn't seem they want to work. They don't
yeah.
have the energy.
But America has a farm labor program. Why can't Grenada have a farm labor program? Is it that we're too small or we're too dark
Well, we're
skinned?
not
What
too
it is?
small. We don't have much confidence in Grenada. The same individual that cannot work in Grenada will do 3 jobs in America.
Yeah,
The same little young woman who have difficulties working in Grenada will go to America and do 2 jobs and study while she's doing it.
oh Lord, that's good.
So that's a challenge we have.
Yeah. So you think in Grenada we don't offer enough incentive? We don't.
It's not insane, it's a mental problem. And it's at all levels.
Okay.
And perhaps if, as we go back to the farmer, if the authorities that be could get it right to understand when you address the economic, mental, and psychological challenge the farmer have now, you also generating an income that would prevent you having the negative consequences
Yeah.
of farmers that lost their
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if people decide, well, some of the farmers are elderly people, they may not owe for the land that they have. You cut off the economic base. They may die. And eventually the land is abandoned. Then these children with land never legalize the land, is looking for jobs on the job market.
Yeah.
That is a challenge you have.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we could speak about the Nutmeg Association, the Cocoa Association in a state of paralysis. The government themselves is not known to contribute significantly to agriculture development.
Yeah.
The hotels must be glad deep down because now they could bring in things cheap
Yeah.
and they
Everything.
don't have to bother with it.
Yeah. But it's an opportunity for us, Mr. Pierre, to have meaningful economic relationship with the farmer. Rather than the hotel wanting to take a picture with giving out a comfort package to a few family and making it to the news and taking pictures, they could make a difference and basically, enter into contracts with the farmers. So long term, the farmers has his pride and his dignity and an income coming. So something to look forward to.
You really believe
There was a politician who said, let's give hope a chance, so keep hope alive. I remember that growing up. I think we have to keep hope alive, although people say,
you might end up in Maki.
yeah, what they used to say, the country is living in hope and the prime minister is living in Happy Hill. So we all want to be living in Happy Hill, or better yet, everybody could come to paradise and live with us.
We
Because
have less than 10 minutes in the program again, Josh. We obviously we can do justice to it. You know, um, let's maybe what aspect we look at the trying to wake up the authorities that be Nutmeg
yeah,
Association, Cocoa Association,
yeah,
government, ICA.
yeah. I think this is the opportunity in terms of interagency, multi-agency approach, in terms of not just the recovery, but to recover building, better and stronger. And in order to do that, it can't be wishful thinking. There has to be a strategic, short-term, medium-term, and long-term effort that is monitored by an
You have a
interagency.
caller on the line. Let's take that call. Caller, you live on the program with us on Studio Galaxy. Go right ahead. You're live. Go ahead. Yes, call. Right, the
Oh,
caller.
the
Yeah.
caller dropped.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is the approach we have to take. There has to be a monitoring board that's in place to make sure that the plans and I could only think, as you say, that the minister is behind the scene putting a plan together for agriculture, and knowing how these plans are often made, they tend to be short term, medium term, long term. I hope there's an element of
Yes, caller, welcome. You're live on Studio Galaxy.
he
Okay,
dropped
let's go
again.
ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying there need to be an M&E component to the plan, which is monitoring and evaluation, to see that the plan is not abandoned after the short-term stage has finished, and the plan also, like all good plan, has to be properly resourced. And one of the components that you said, Mr. Pierre, which I believe will save lives, is the system you mentioned about the nutmeg or cocoa farmers, and seeing how we can support them practically for, say, 3 to 5 years until the plants start bearing again. I think these kind of sensible, practical solution is what is needed now, and having some funds for temporary psychosocial support for the farmers. I don't know how many districts we have in terms of extension districts in
I think
Grenada.
it's 4 extension district,
For extension,
not the southeast and
yeah,
the west,
yeah.
and then
So we
Carriacou.
we just need four counselor type of person. Each one to a district, and making sure that the support that farmers need and the motivation that they need is being given to keep them alive. Um, because the farmer I spoke about, it feels like he and his sisters are the elders on the plot, but there's about 3 or 4 other young families I see on the plot as well. I mainly kind of interact with the kids. They all rush me when I come, so I just see them coming from all directions. So if we can support these farmers and the extended families, through resources for psychosocial support. I think that will be good. If we could look at contracts in terms of the hotel, if we can pull all the hotels together and say, hoteliers, we've given you 100% concession for all building materials. We've given you 100% for bringing in all kind of food equipment that you want. Now you say you want to contribute to the redevelopment of Grenada. This is what we asking you. We've given you everything you've asked for. Now we asking that you enter into commercial or trading arrangement with the farmers, so the farmers have a sense that after 2 years of planting, they have somewhere where the crops is going. If we can make it more practical, as Mr. Pierre says, where people could understand, so something simple like lettuce. Okay, lettuce take 5 weeks to grow, 4 weeks, 5 weeks to grow. Okay, Mr. Hotelier, help the farmer create the infrastructure to grow the lettuce. Let it be a hydroponic system. You take out 25% of his pay every time he deliver lettuce. Let's kind of pool the resources together to make it happen, to make it a success. We know a lot of the time farmers are operating with a cutlass, fork, and spade, but we know that agriculture need tractors, it needs irrigation materials, it needs lines, it needs pump. It needs that kind of infrastructure in order to move from growing 10 lettuce to growing 3,000 lettuce. Let's think sustainable long-term economic relationships and let the hotel invest in the infrastructure for the farmer or with the farmer, and let the farmer invest in terms of the lettuce, the seedlings, the manure, and the labor. Let there be a partnership that is practical, that can benefit not just one side, but all the sides. It benefits the hotel, it benefits the farmer, and it benefits our country GDP. Let's think a little bit wider, a little bit more holistic.
Well, obviously, I don't know what we could do to challenge the Nutmeg Board, the Cocoa Association, the Minister of Agriculture. We might have to continue to ball in their head, but definitely they need to provide assistance to the nutmeg farmers. These farmers, some of them go dead. And I believe the mental, psychological, and economic challenge that they have now demands and warrant that the Nutmeg Association look at the last 12 months sale. And that could be done by one of the workers because everything is on computer now. And determine what percentage of that average sale for the last 12 months we could give the farmer, because the farmer has lost his source of income for 3 years. While we have a program for the replanting of nutmeg and the proper husbandry practice. If we know that the leaders have been traumatized to the extent of a state of paralysis, call on ICA and CARI to help you all. We don't expect you to take our advice, but we want to beg all you, in the name of the farmers of this country, please help them. Joshua, as we continue from Saturday to Saturday on this agriculture program, every day you come on the program, new topics must raise.
Yes.
It disturbs me badly when I hear people making noise over food. And we talking about sustainability, but all the food come out of way. Yes, this is Studio Galaxy as we come to the end of the program today. We have our brother Joshua with us. We have our technical operator, Devante. We have just added a new sister to our program, hoping they could help old people advance in the technology. They're not very communicative, but we will try to be as passionate as possible because they have the technology. We're struggling with the technology. They have the technology, and we hope they could help the old people so that they could continue to put out the voice. Joshua. And Gates is around us, giving us overall guidance.
Gates is our consultant.
Consultant, technician, major, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Pierre, I just want to make a final appeal that we use the full range of resources that we have to come up with a plan for agriculture. It is so important. We talked about having an agriculture board of advisors for the minister. If ever it's needed now. We can do this. We can recover from Beryl, and I'm sure we will. But we need to work together. We need to work across party lines as well. And I would hope that the two Mitchells can come together and make a national statement in terms of motivating and encouraging the nation and our farmers.
Yes, and we bow out with you today on Studio Galaxy. And remember, we are the Galaxy Equalizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Say whoa, 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 whoa. Say whoa, 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 whoa. Ready now, me ready now. A time to share, a time to care, a time to happy. But the whole year just went and you forgot it. Too much disguising on your love. I don't want to come tell the eye about Merry Christmas. God, you need to give a little. You get your rhythm. You need to show the people something more. Don't make the heart shiver when fear is driven and end up losing days. But I'ma make it, youth's born for great days, For you see I own cheddar with one amount of labor. You know see I own cheddar with one amount of labor. So till Santa him can stop let all youths from war.